Okay, ready to dive into something a little different with this film.
Always up for a challenge. What do we have?
So we're looking at Nitham Oru Vaanam.
Ah,
It's an Indian film. Translates to Life is a Sky.
interesting title.
And from what I'm seeing in this review, there's a lot more going on than just a simple love story.
Yeah.
It gets into themes of perspective, personal growth. There's even some Hindu mythology sprinkled in.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Where do we even begin with a film like that?
Well, this review by Servine does a great job of breaking it down. And it all starts with that idea of life being like the sky, right?
Okay, I can see where this is going. Yeah.
Like we've all had those moments where we feel stuck, right? Like we're staring at the same patch of sky day in and day out.
Been in there.
Exactly. But then it's those new experiences, those unexpected moments. The review compares it to seeing a rainbow for the first time. Like suddenly, boom, this burst of color and emotion.
I like that analogy.
And, when it comes to those new experiences, this film focuses on love, specifically the different shades of love explored through the three main pairings.
Three pairings. Okay, so it's not just a single love story we're following here.
Right. You've got Veera and Meenakshi, Prabha and Mathi, and Arjun and Suha.
A lot to unpack there.
Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, Ashok Selvan plays all three male leads.
Wow. Okay. Talk about challenge for an actor. The reviewer said anything about how he pulled it off?
Yeah, they were actually really impressed. But I think what makes this even more interesting is how each of these couples represents a different aspect of the Shiva-Parvati dynamic from Hindu mythology.
Okay, now you're really speaking my language. For those who might not be familiar, though, maybe we could use a little background.
Oh, right. You know me and my mythology.
Well, think of it like this. Shiva and Parvati are basically the ultimate divine couple in Hindu mythology. But their relationship is far from simple. It's multifaceted. And the film takes those different facets, those different energies within their love story, and reflects them in these human relationships.
And it does it in a way that's really interesting, even if you're not super familiar with the mythology.
Oh, so they don't lay it on too thick?
No, not at all. They actually weave it in really subtly. So like you have Veera and Meenakshi, right?
Yeah.
Their story seems to mirror the tragic love of Shiva and Sati that was Shiva's first wife. But of course, the film puts its own unique spin on things.
The twist. I like it.
Yeah. And then there's Prabhu and Mathi. They're more about Parvati's unwavering devotion to Shiva.
So each couple represents a different facet of this divine love. Clever. What about the last couple, Arjun and Supa?
That one's interesting. They seem to embody the concept of Shiva and Shakti.
Yeah.
That's like the balance of masculine and feminine energies in the universe.
Okay, now we're getting into some deep stuff. And this is all within one movie.
Right. This is definitely not your typical romantic comedy. This is something deeper.
It's pretty ambitious stuff, having one actor portray three characters who each embody different aspects of this divine love story.
Right. It's like the director is challenging us to question our own perceptions of love.
I mean, can we really separate ourselves from the stories we tell about love?
Exactly. The review actually mentioned that the director explained this by saying, we all imagine ourselves in others' stories, which I thought was fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're hardwired to search for reflections of ourselves in the world, even in fictional characters.
So Ashok Selvan is playing these echoes of Shiva.
Yeah, reflecting these different facets of love through his performance. Sounds like a pretty nuanced role.
Yeah, and from what I'm gathering, he pulls it off.
Always good to hear when an actor can really inhabit a role like that. But it's a tough act to balance, right? Especially when you're dealing with mythology and these big universal themes.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'd be easy to get a little, heavy-handed.
Preachy, even.
Yeah, exactly. But the review doesn't give that impression at all.
That's promising. But no film is perfect, right? Anything we should know about.
Well, no film is perfect. And the reviewer did point out a few flaws.
Like what?
Apparently, there are moments where the film relies a little too heavily on familiar tropes. Like, you can kind of predict where things are going.
A few cliches here and there. That's pretty common, even in films with great ideas.
Right. And the pacing isn't always perfect.
Too slow in places.
Yeah, it kind of drags in a couple of spots. But then there's the character of Mathi.
One of the lovers.
Right. Prabha's love interest. The reviewer felt like her character wasn't as fully developed as it could have been.
Interesting. You'd think with such a layered premise, they'd give each character their due, especially with the mythological connections.
Yeah, it's a shame because the reviewer really seemed to connect with the other characters and their stories. But Cinematically, it sounds like the film is quite stunning.
Oh, visually it holds up.
Yeah, apparently they use a lot of vibrant colors, really meaningful close-ups.
Seems immersive, almost dreamlike if they're using a lot of color.
Yeah, and then you have the music.
Oh, yeah. Who did the score?
Gopi Sundar.
Oh, wow. I'm a fan of his. Some of his stuff is just so evocative.
Yeah. And the cinematography is by Ritu Varma.
Oh, I know his work. It's always so striking.
The reviewer was clearly impressed with how those elements work together to reinforce the emotional impact of the film.
Right, because you can have a great story, but if the music and the visuals aren't there to support
It's
it...
just not the same, right?
Exactly. You need that synergy to really draw the audience in. So, to recap, we've got these multi-layered love stories, Hindu mythology, stunning visuals, a great score. It seems like the director's saying a lot about love. But what's the overall message here? What's it all mean?
It's like, what is love, really? How do we define it? How does it shape us?
Big questions. And I think the film is saying that those answers are always evolving, just like we are.
Which kind of goes back to that whole life is a sky metaphor.
Exactly. The sky is vast, ever-changing. Some days it's sunny, some days it's stormy, but it's all part of the same sky. And just like that, our experiences with love, the joy, the heartbreak, the growth, they all contribute to the overall tapestry of our lives.
Man, that's a great way to put it. It's like, we can't appreciate the sunny days without experiencing a few storms along the way.
And sometimes we even learn to find beauty in the storms themselves. The review highlighted how Nitham Oru Vaanam is ultimately about embracing those unexpected turns. It's about understanding that change, especially in love, is inevitable.
And more than that, it's about moving on. Like, sometimes moving on is the best thing we can do for our own growth, even if it's painful. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's like we're constantly evolving, and sometimes that means leaving certain things behind to make space for new experiences, new relationships, new understandings of ourselves.
It's funny because when I first read the title Life is a Sky, I didn't really think much of it.
It seems simple on the surface.
Right. But then you dive into the film, you explore these characters and their journeys, and you start to see all the layers to that metaphor.
And how those layers connect to those bigger questions about love, loss, and growth. It's like the director is encouraging us to look up at our own life sky and appreciate its vastness, its complexity.
And just like the sky can surprise us with a meteor shower or a breathtaking sunset.
Our lives, too, are full of unexpected moments of beauty, connection, and wonder.
So well said. It makes you realize that no matter how much we think we know about love or about life itself, there's always more to discover.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? That sense of possibility, of endless exploration.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. We've gone from a seemingly simple love story to this rich exploration of Hindu mythology, personal growth, and the very nature of love itself.
It's amazing what a single film can inspire.
Absolutely. And speaking of inspiration, the reviewer mentioned that the rainbow is a recurring motif in the film.
The rainbow.
Yeah. It's used as a symbol of hope, of new beginnings, of embracing the full spectrum of life's experiences. So as we wrap up this discussion, I'm curious, what colors make up your personal rainbow when it comes to love, growth, or even just understanding yourself a bit better, something to ponder?